So we're going to bring on, tag team. We're going to bring on Pitch 92, talk a little bit more about what's going on in your life, man. How you doing? Welcome to the podcast.
I'm alright, thanks. How are you?
You've had a long car journey today.
Yeah, I wasn't driving there, so it's all good.
Yeah, all right, fair enough, man.
Just sitting. Yeah, man, all good.
Good stuff, man. You've been about. We had a chat about this in the car on the way down. Like, people kind of it's like people. It's misconstrued that you haven't been about that long, when in fact, in reality, you have. You've been behind the scenes with a mouse outfit. You've been doing your thing for some time, and recently you've been with High Focus, and you put out a couple of fucking solid projects with some great features, man. So, do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you've got going on at the moment?
So since the album with Verbs a couple of months ago, I've just been catching up with stuff that I've owed people for time. Because usually when I'm getting, just had more free time because that, it wasn't that hectic, but it was, trying to get everything done or whatever.
So question of time, man. I mean, it's sick.
Safe, man.
Yeah. And obviously, like, Rye was on the titular track for that as well. Yeah. Just to link you in again, man.
We're doing that tonight.
He's not really gone.
Yeah, we're doing that tonight.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it'll be the first full performance.
Yeah, man. But yeah, so I'm just doing some stuff with Tremendous for her album. I've got some stuff on Rye's next thing. Quite a few people, man, just doing that. And then I'm working on trying to get beats for my next album. Then I need to decide what vocalists, so I've been speaking to Flittrix about what I can be doing and all that. So
crazy, man.
But yeah.
You were at the Loyal Kana gig the other night.
No, I wasn't there. No. I was supposed to be DJing, but didn't work out in the end. But I had a few songs played of mine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. The Lost in Space track with Jehst.
Yeah, Jehst did that, and then Kingdom off my last album. So
man,
that's pretty
crazy.
sick. But yeah, I wish I'd went. But
Kingdom was a fucking sick track as well.
Nice one, man. Yeah. Oh yeah, I do stuff at Lethal Stop, like her new thing as well.
Oh, you did the Cherries track, right?
Yeah.
That's a dope one.
We're doing more. Yeah, basically just a bunch of shit.
So how did you link with Jehst originally?
I got a text off him like 3 years ago.
Actually, yeah.
Saying, yo, this is Jehst. I got your number off Syntax. I hope you don't mind. Obviously, I'm like, nah. I'd met him before. I met him in like 2012, but I was obviously like grew up listening to him. So I was like quite young. It was a mouse. He came to one of my Mouse Hopper gigs. So I was like shaking, like that kind of like. But then this time he'd moved up to Manchester because of his girl or whatever. So we just linked up, and then we've worked quite a lot over the years. Like, I'll be at his he makes beats too, innit? So we make quite a lot of stuff together. And then obviously he's on my projects. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Crazy, man. And obviously you've got like a whole kind of like, index of like UK hip hop legends on your latest project, man.
Yeah,
like
man.
Foreign Beggars on there as well.
Yeah,
obviously, like a pivotal time for them. Obviously disbanding. We had Pav on the podcast recently as well. Yeah, good guy. And so you guys obviously been making music as well. How did you kind of like tie that dynamic together? Because obviously it just works seamlessly. The question of time, like it just. I'm a really big fan of that kind of soul MC producer dynamic. Anyway, I think it really helps an album flow. So, what was the kind of like? How did you guys link up originally for that?
We met when I was still in Mouse Outfit. We were touring at the time when we were doing. Was it Flittrix's album launch or something in Brighton?
I think so, yeah.
I think you were there. Yeah, I met him in the smoking area. I've met him before, but not really, not properly chatted. And then I got him on the second Mouse Alpha album. Was it like 2-3 tracks?
Yeah, I think that was really the start of it for me, because like you say, like when the Mouse Outfit were touring and OWLS were touring, we played a lot of the same shows. But I think until we did, was it Credits Roll?
Yeah, that was the first one.
That's the first one I wrote to. And a funny thing I remembered about that was like you sent me the beat. I remember hearing it and thinking, oh shit, that's actually really sick. Because I didn't know what to expect because it's the first beat you'd ever sent me. Yeah. And I wrote something to it straight away, and I messaged you back, and then you emailed me back saying, you know what, if you're not feeling it, it's all good, man. And I was like, no, I've literally just written to it, bro. But then we got in the studio and did 3 tracks in a night. Which actually they all went on that Mouse Outfit project.
You wrote one of them in like 10 minutes, one of the Mouse Outfit tunes.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. That was just
straight after.
Yeah, there's like one of those all night sessions where it's like, you lot were there. It's the first time I met you guys properly. Like I'm saying, we'd spoken and met, but there's a difference between actually like sitting in a room with someone and actually making music together.
Yeah.
And like those 3 tracks, it was, it came off as Verb T and Mouse Outfit, but really those were the first Verb T and Pitch tracks. Because it was his beats and me rapping on it. It just so happened that they engineered it and we were there. And that's not to, I'm not trying to say anything, but that's just the facts of what it was.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? And then he just kept sending me beats, and we made Good Evening over the space of a few years. Which, you know, I'm fond of that album. I think there were some real good moments, but I think with Question of Time, it was like, right, I want to make an actual rounded project that sits. Because I think Good Evening, in a way, in my head, it's made in the way people talk about mixtapes, a collection of tracks. I'm not saying that to bring the album down. Like, I really do still, I'm proud of the album and stuff. But I think the new one's more of a rounded off project that sits together as one piece.
Yeah, and I think that's it's noticeable when you listen to it. It does feel like a kind of complete project where you guys complement each other really, really well. So have you got anything else in the pipeline going forward?
Big question.
Yeah.
We've got quite a few tracks just sat there that didn't make it anywhere, you know.
You know, I think like, you know, we talked. The last thing we talked about was me doing something for your next project.
Yeah. Like he'll be on my next thing, obviously, and then
I mean, you know, we definitely will make more music. You know what I mean? We're not making an album at the moment, but you know.
Yeah.
So all the tracks that don't make it onto an album, what happens to them? Because obviously you go on to your next project, your next album. Do they fit onto that one? Or do they go onto that one? Or do they just left
sometimes it
uh,
depends. Like on my EP that I put out, the first thing on High Focus, he's on a track called Plane Ticket. And that was recorded around the time of Good Evening, but
it was meant to be the intro.
So I was like, yo, this fits with my EP. So yeah, stuff like that happens, but yeah, it depends.
Like sometimes what I'll do, like I might like some of the things I said on it and sort of chop bits of the verse out and then rewrite a song with those bits. Or other times the songs will just be there. You know, they're just as unreleased songs.
Yeah, man.
Sometimes it's best to leave them alone. If they don't come out when they were made, in the context they were made for, a lot of the time they don't work, I find, personally.
Are there any tracks, like, in particular that you can think of which you think, damn, man, I wish I could release that? Or, to your point, everything happens for a reason, you probably would have released it.
Yeah, I don't know. There's nothing that comes to mind that I think, I wish I'd have put out.
That's a good thing, though, man. I've got to bring up though, mate. Like Verb, you were obviously on what's it called? Romesh's new show.
Oh,
Reluctant Landlord.
Yeah.
You do the intro.
Me and Pitch did the soundtrack.
Exactly, man. And you do the intro, like credit music to that. And you actually had a cameo performance as a dogger in one of the recent episodes.
You know what? That's so funny, right? So if I think we should take it back to the beginning.
Yeah, man.
Like
Please do.
How that all came about. Yeah, it started with me meeting Romesh for his podcast, and it ended up with some dogging. So like...
You was a really good dogger.
We thought it was a joke originally, innit? 'Cause we were in that room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, so if I go way back to... I didn't really know... I knew who Romesh was, and DJ Mad Nice, who spins for the 4 Hours, he's like he's Ipswich local with Rye now. But that's a long-time friend of mine that was a DJ for the Owls. But so he got his Grandpa Simpson on and wrote, because he loves he was the original
Old man,
podcast
was a tree,
dude,
or cloud or whatever it is. Yeah.
Before everyone was listening to podcast. He probably the person that told me what a podcast was. He's one of those guys that's up on shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he listened to Hip Hop Saved My Life when it was like brand new and really liked it. And then one day they had a guest, I can't remember who it was, who didn't really know that much about hip-hop. So he got on Twitter and was like, why have you had this guy on? I love your podcast. And I thought, what are you doing? But then at the same time, that's how it all started. Because Romesh replied and was like, we'd love to have you guys on the show, because he saw that he was the 4 Hours DJ.
Yeah.
So Mad Nice called me up and I went down with him to do the podcast. And I still remember it because I knew who Romesh was. And when I found out we were going on the podcast, I had just read this interview with him before, and these guys are making eyes at each other, so it's throwing me off a little bit.
She's cracking up, man.
But so he, we did the podcast, and I was like, I don't really watch TV. But then as soon as I said it, I was like, that sounds like a backhanded, like I'm trying to act like I don't know who you are, mate. You're not.
Yeah.
But I didn't mean it like I literally hadn't watched TV in months, and then I realized, this guy's actually right, he's putting in a lot of work. And I actually like look up to him in quite a lot of ways because he did this whole interview about how, you know, the prime of his career came later after he'd had a family and he was in his 30s already. And that kind of resonated with me because when I hit 30, I was like, damn, do I really want to keep rapping on till I hit 40? And if I'd have stopped then, I'm not saying I was going to stop then, but the question did cross my mind. And since then, the OWLS happened. I worked with DJ Premier, I've done this and that. You know, it's like, just imagine I had been one of those people that thinks you can't rap when you're 30. You know what I mean? If I'd have been one of those people that says you can't rap after you're 30 and decided to throw it in the bin, I wouldn't have done the best shit of my career. So anyway, I became interested in the work that he was doing and found that he's actually a really good comedian. But then I said that to him, I was like, and then the funny thing is he had this other guy, I can't remember his name now, but he was recording the episode before us. And I was like, he's like, oh, do you know that guy? And I was like, no, I don't know him. He's like, oh yeah, you haven't got a TV, have you? And I was like, you don't watch TV, do you? But anyway, so we did the podcast, really cool guy we got on. And then actually the first thing that we did was me and Pitch had 4 tracks. He did a program for Showtime in America called, is it Just Another Immigrant? Yeah. And he got High Focus to do the soundtrack. And so I don't know if people have seen that show, but it's a really funny show, and it's got a whole soundtrack by, I think, Dabbler's on there, all the Rows are on there.
That's crazy, man. Because didn't originally, like, he was saying about getting the rights to, like, various, like, Wu-Tang tracks, and he could only get, like, Gravel Pit or something. So that might have been...
I don't know, but I don't know, because I think his whole... Well, no, do you know what it is? It's because his whole idea for the show was this about an English guy going over to America to try and kickstart his career. So having like English rap as the backdrop was kind of, he felt it really fit what he was making. But I have to shout him out because I think what he's done, I think he's a big part of hip hop in the UK in general now. Because he could have done a podcast dedicated to anything, but he chose to do a hip hop specific one. And he put us on and then he just messaged me once and was like, yeah, I've got a new sitcom, are you interested in doing the title music? I was like,
crazy, man.
Am I interested? Like, come on.
Because he plays a lot of music at the shows as well, doesn't he? A lot of High Focus.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't he play like a Dirty Dyke track and he got loads of complaints?
He did that at a live show, didn't he?
We talked. No, you know what it was? Is that he had the song "Return of the Twat" in the playlist that comes on before he gets on stage, and he said this woman who's, I don't know, she's in her 60s or something. Her and her husband were sat right at the front next to the speaker. So if you picture like a nice theatre, like, I don't know, the Mayflower in Southampton, that's where I've seen him. But, with seating, people just sitting down nicely in an old theatre. And then you got speakers at the front just booming out, "Return of the twat, return of the twat, return of the twat, return of the twat." And this old lady complained about that, which is understandable, I can understand why that might have offended her.
Hear, big, smooth Verb T.
No, not at all. I think that he just wanted music that's a very lively song, isn't it? So I don't think he was thinking that people would zero in on the lyrics. It's meant to be background music.
You can't not if it's Return of the Twat.
Well, and also she was right by the speaker though. If she was at the back, it wouldn't have been the same thing. But
my dad, when I told my dad,
did she think it was about her as well? Or maybe it was like
you'd have to ask her.
My dad, that my label manager knows Romesh. Yeah, he lost his shit.
Really, man? Oh.
Yeah, he lost his shit. He was like, introduce me. And I was like, well,
doesn't quite work like that, man.
It doesn't really work like that. He loved it.
It's great that he's putting UK hip hop artists on, not just kind of like grime artists, but you can tell that he's like genuinely a fan of the music as well. Do you know what I mean?
Have you watched it?
What's that, man?
Have you watched The Landlord?
Yeah, man, because it's got do you guys watch Peep Show?
Yeah.
You know, like the early episode where like Mark makes friends with a racist guy.
Yeah.
And it's the same, and it's his like rival landlord in the show.
Yeah.
Because he always goes in the pub.
That guy's hilarious.
Yeah, because he goes in, he always like pours him a pint.
Well, there's a certain scene where like he's like trying, where Romesh is like trying to like get his like daughter and his kids like trying, and all you hear is pitching. I was like, this is mad, bro. This is actually mad, bro. All you hear is like your tune, bro. I was like, this is mad, bro. It was nuts.
Yeah, and then I think because when we did the title track for Reluctant Landlord, I thought that might be it. We just done the title track and that's it. Well, no, I mean, he asked me if I wanted to do it, so I spoke to Pitch and was like, you know, we need a specific type of thing, and it just so happened he had sent me a pack already, and I just found this one that I thought would be perfect for the show.
Sorry to interrupt you, man. Can one of you boys go outside and let Compound in?
Yes. Fuck's sake.
Thank you.
Fuck's sake. Here we go. Here we go.
I was just going to say, like, I work at the theatre in Ipswich.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, he works.
Romesh is there next week.
Big up, Romesh.
And so...
Can you get him some guesses?
I said to Shabby, I said, oh, like, you know, speak to Verb and, like, try and get him to say, like...
I wanted free tickets, innit?
Well, I can get free tickets anyway, fuck the tickets, but fucking... Just, you know, have a little link up, do you know what I mean? Surely, you could say, you know, Shabby, surely Romesh knows Shabby through you. Like,
But all I remember is, like, hearing... I played it and I heard your voice. I was like, nah. Heard your beat and I was like, nah, you man are taking a piss out of us.
So just in the interest of like getting it back on track, because like, right,
Here we go.
might need a bit of a break here, man. How you
So
doing,
Compound
man?
has just walked in.
What's up, bro? You right?
Same shit.
Boys,
Good man.
shall we wrap this up quickly and then get?
I mean,
That's
I
all right,
think we could keep going for a little bit longer.
What you, man? Fuck off.
All right, Compound have walked in now. We're just kicking him back out of the room.
Compound, everyone.
Yeah, fuck off. Go outside. Shut the door.
you need to be quiet,
Shut the
mate.
door. Shut the door. Shut the door.
You want to watch your mouth, right?
Goodness
Oh,
sake.
it's Daniela. Daniela's just sat
Yeah,
in the
my
room.
wife's just chilling in the other room.
Oh, is she actually in the house?
Yeah, man.
Oh, damn.
So right, in the interest of time, guys, because you guys have got a gig tonight. So what's on
Oh,
the
shit, yeah, 22.
yeah? So what's on the cards for tonight's lineup?
What, in terms of our set, or?
Yeah, man.
We're going to focus it a bit more on the new album, but you know, we always play. You know, people want to hear. They don't just want to hear the new stuff ever. Do
Yeah,
they?
of course, man.
So yeah, we're talking about Say It Again. So I'll be saying it.
Yes, man.
A few
It's gotta be
things
done.
again, replaying a few numbers
You're gonna
I've
do
done
any
before.
Dick Trusay as well. Yeah.
Nah,
Is
that's
he coming out?
I haven't seen him in years, man. I don't know what he's up to nowadays.
Oh, I like that, man.
He used to just burst in the studio.
So, man, before we wrap up, is there anything you want to kind of shout out? Is there anyone you want to big up? What's on the cards next for you guys?
The 4 Hours album. How long
Oh yeah.
till we see one of those?
It's done. I was listening to what we thought was the final draft. I think we're gonna maybe add one more song, but it's there. It's done. It's mixed. We've got 2 videos. Like it's ready to go. But yeah, maybe it needs one more, and then we're done.
Yeah, man.
because that Nature's Greatest Mystery, that album, man, that's one of my favourite albums. You get hip hop wise.
Well,
So what
respect.
inspired you to
And,
want to do this podcast? I think.
Oh, for sure, man. And that album, you know, me and my friend, when we were back in college, we used to, like, even in the evenings, just sort of drive around, smoking weed as you do, going to car parks, just get into stupid situations. And that was the album we always listened, because we only had one CD. I didn't have an aux cable. But
Shotgun
every time I hear that album, man, that does take me back to sort of good memories. Really, really good memories. And obviously it's done really, really well. Did you guys think it would do that well as an album?
No, absolutely not. I didn't think it would do badly, but when we made it, I thought it was like a one-off, just fun little get-together type of. I never envisioned what it would become like when we had first made it. I definitely, once it was finished and I listened to the mixes, I definitely thought, oh, this is actually really cool. But I remember the first show we did as a group was in Oxford, and it's funny how things cycle around, because the promoter that put it on was the person that I made my first ever record with Harry Love. And like, we came out then, and it was like, it wasn't a very busy show, but there was just something to the way the people reacted when we played Not Like Before. Because at that time, Not Like Before had been a single, but the album was not out yet, so people only knew Not Like Before. So we played the set, and people were into it and quite lively. And then that tune came on. They were like, and I was like, damn, we've actually really made something that's hit people here. And then the next gig we did after that, there might have been one in between that was forgettable, but the one I remember after that is when we played in Bristol for the first time as the 4 Hours. Now, Leaf Dog and BVA, they're from the Southwest. And I think that's like a big part of why we've been embraced in Bristol and the Southwest, because, you know, Leaf and Beaver have got that twang in their raps. But, man, we walked to the stage and, man, at that point, I'd done a lot of shows and a lot of good shows and stuff, but I'd never had it where literally we had to walk through the crowd to get on stage, and people were like, and we had the masks on, and people was like grabbing at us, and I was like, shit, like really?
This is
like,
popping off, man.
And that's when I realized, fuck, we've actually really hit people with this project. Like, it's really, and every track people were rapping a lot, and like now, you know, we've had that over years, and it's like, obviously I know what it is now, but then I was shocked. Yeah, not because I didn't think it was good enough, but I just didn't think the audience was out there like that. Do you know what I mean?
That's another thing. So obviously UK hip hop has come from such a niche to now, I would say, a really huge thing. I mean, this is for both of you. When you guys first went and actually played like a show abroad, and the reaction you got, were you surprised about by the reaction from other people actually? Because hip hop is American typically, isn't it? Yeah. And UK hip hop, I think, has defined itself as its own genre now, and kind of slightly, in a way, split from hip hop and American hip hop and that. So going away and actually seeing that there is an interest in UK hip hop abroad.
Do you know what? I think it's interesting because I used to think about it like that, but now what I come to realize is that those same people across mainland Europe that listen to us, they tend to listen to a lot of American stuff and American stuff that comes from the era that inspired us.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think that's why it kind of hit with those crowds, because, you know, it felt like that, the essence of what they had grown up on, the same way, you know, our influences were the same things, right. I guess. So I think it brought more of a togetherness between, rather than separating UK and US hip hop. I think it was just hip hop.
Yeah, man.
And I think that's why we've kind of traveled outside the UK, is because you know, people, and I totally agree with you though in another respect, because I think people have really come to appreciate the UK sound. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think. It's not that we broke off into our own thing, but it's that we were accepted more as being able to make good hip hop outside the UK by fans outside the UK. Do you know what I mean? And at first it was a bit like, I remember like one of our first gigs overseas, we supported MOP in Switzerland, and it was the day that the Where You Find Me video got released. So I literally remember this moment, sitting in a hotel room. MOP, if you know me, like I love MOP, like especially, obviously Primo to me when I was a teenager was the man, still is now, but then it was, you're a teenage fan who's like crazy, like it's a whole different thing, isn't it? And so the fact I was supporting MOP and I just dropped my video for Where You Find Me, I was like, man, this is exactly what I dreamed about when I was a kid. And it's like those moments are really important, because since then, like my career may have gone up and I've done a lot more since then that I'm really proud of, but I would never feel like I felt in that moment, do you know what I mean? Because it was where that timeline disappeared between me being a teenager listening to hip hop and me being out there actually doing it. That's when I realized, damn, like, and that's why I really appreciate the OWLS, because I feel like without that in my career, I wouldn't be able to do everything else I've done. Do you know what I mean? It was the springboard for everything. So yeah, I'll always appreciate that shit.
Yeah, for sure, man. And for someone that's obviously a veteran in the UK scene, how do you think UK hip hop has evolved since like the 80s with Derek B, London Posse, to how do you think the overall sound has evolved to now, and do you think it has evolved as much as it should have?
Well, you know what? I would say this. When I first started listening, I only really knew of American stuff. And what the album that really there's two albums I looked to in the UK, and that was 19 Long Time by Black Twang.
Mm-hmm. Big album.
Because I think that's probably the first UK hip-hop album that I bought. I remember buying the vinyl of it. I'm from Shorty Blitz. He worked in the record shop at the time. He sold me that vinyl. And that's the first UK album I listened to start to finish and was like, wow, like this is just... it was, you know what I mean, it was incredible to me, and it really made me think that I could actually make songs, make albums, because but then when I look back, I remember being a kid, I lived in Stockwell, and there was Red Records in Brixton. I remember walking past, and they had Gunshot LPs in their front window, and you know, the Brotherhood was signed to a major back in the day, like Son of Noise. They were touring Europe in the 80s, 90s, I believe, and, you know, doing their thing. So I feel like people think we're at the highest point we've ever been in terms of the underground stuff. And I understand why, because it's gone in peaks and troughs. And if you first got into hip-hop when it was in one of the troughs, you're going to think it's only gone up. But before that, it was up too. You know what I mean? There's been lots of different peaks. And London Posse were huge.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, so I feel like maybe just the media, the way people consume music has changed too. So we're viewing things in a different way now. And obviously, you know, the internet goes without saying that had such a huge impact on what music could how music could reach people further away. But I think it's in a particularly good state. I honestly don't know in terms of, has it gotten better? I mean, it's evolved in the way that all genres have evolved.
Yeah,
you know? It's gone from analog to digital, for example. And you know, there's an argument that people would say when stuff was recorded down to tape and actually made in that sort of way, it was a better sound. You know, it was a more true sound. And there's other people that like how it's developed. And I'm a bit of both, man. I listen to a lot of old music, but I really do like to listen to the new stuff and hear people innovate. And so I don't know. To answer your question, literally, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just love music.
I think that's the only way you can answer that question. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But guys, it's been an absolute pleasure for coming through. Thank you. Like, obviously, humbled to have you on the show. Good luck with the gig tonight. I'm sure you'll smash it. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Anytime,
Thanks
man.
for the beer.
Thank you very much for coming down.
No,
Welcome,
respect, man.
Welcome,
And I guess anyone that hasn't heard our project,
Check
you
it
probably,
out.
if you listen this far in the podcast, you probably care. You
Surprisingly,
probably
people
have.
do, man. Like, it's
But even if, I just think, what I mean, I don't mean they wouldn't listen that far in the podcast. What I mean is, if you're not a fan of ours, then you wouldn't have listened this far. You probably would have been like, who's this guy waffling on?
Yeah.
But if you've listened this far, it means you actually care what we have to say. So it probably means you've already heard the album. But listen to it again and let us know what you think.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for coming on. I think, obviously, we do need to wind it down now because if you can't already hear, Compound have arrived.
They're in the house, man, and they're like, you can hear them from a fucking mile away. So, Verb T, Pitch 92, it's been a pleasure, gents.
Thank you very much.
Big up yourselves.
Thanks for having us.
It's a wrap. Thank you.
Yes.